Peter, I want you to picture something. So you remember when you were in high school, right? And you got assigned a group project and they put four people in the class together and you guys got to put your heads together and do an assignment and then you got to present it the next day in class. Okay, so with that same thinking in line, let's go up to Tallahassee. Governor DeSantis has come out very vocally and said he wants to eliminate property taxes in the state of Florida for homesteaders, right? So he goes to the legislature and he says, hey guys, I want you guys to get together in your little groups and I want you to make me some proposals. Well, Peter, a few weeks ago, proposals came in, and are they absurd? They're so absurd, DeSantis says they're not even taking the assignment seriously. Speaker Daniel Perez says, hey, why don't we put a couple of them on the ballot, which really peeved off DeSantis, because if you put more than a couple on the ballot, nothing's going to get the 60% referendum, right? It's like a ghost candidate for a referendum. So I'm going to pull up this article from NPR talking about or detailing some of the proposed resolutions and what their main shticks are. HJR 201 eliminates non-school homestead property taxes, just outright, completely. We don't know how we're going to pay for parks. We don't know how we're going to pay for art. We don't know how we're going to pay for anything. We're just going to eliminate it completely. So no creativity required, just throw it away. HJR, and I'm not going to say HJR every time because they're all HJR. 203 phases out non-school homesteaded property taxes over a decade. So that's kind of like the previous one, except, hey, let's just slowly brush it under the rug, and the municipalities will figure out their budgets eventually. Okay. Next one, exempts residents 65 and older from paying non-school homesteaded property taxes. So releases a little bit of burden off the municipalities, so it doesn't just hit them all at once. It says, hey, it's just the old people, which, by the way, those are the people who usually go out and vote. So they're the constituents who really matter anyway. That's what Tallahassee is saying here. Next one, creates a non-school property tax homestead exemption equal to 25% of the value of the house. This doesn't eliminate property taxes. This just adds an additional one. So we have, for anybody who doesn't know, the homestead exemption is $50,000 in total, but the way it's put together is two $25,000 exemptions, right? So you get $25,000 and $25,000 taken off the assessed value of your house, and that's your property tax exemption. And then they can't raise it more than 3% a year. So 25 plus 25 is 50 off the assessed value, and they cannot raise it more than 3% a year. That's current state. So what this proposal says is, let's add another one that is worth 25% of the assessed value of the house. Okay, so Peter's laughing at that one. Peter, I'm halfway through it, and then you can tell me your favorite. I want you to give me your favorite one.
Well, a favorite one. Okay.
Favorite one is totally subjective. Next one, creates a $100,000 non-school homestead tax exemption for residences with property insurance. So no insurance lobbyist was helping in this school project. No insurance lobbyist was helping in this at all. So basically what this is saying, if I'm reading this correctly, is that if you carry property insurance, you'll get an extra $100,000 off of your assessed value.
Wow.
What? All right, okay, we're going to keep on going. Next one, it's two more. Eliminates the cap on portability, which lets homeowners transfer tax savings from their previous place to a new one. This means homeowner can transfer their saver home's tax cap benefit to a new home. Am I reading this correctly, Peter? Does that mean that if I sell my current house and buy a new one, I can just take that one with me and my taxes don't step up?
Yeah, remember that was the portability they put in place probably a decade ago. There was a certain portability aspect that you could bring, because what they were finding is nobody wanted to sell because they were locked in, just like those people who have the golden handcuffs now with the 2 and 3% mortgage rate. So they can't leave. So what they did about like I said, a decade ago or so, they passed this ability where you could it was portability. You could take certain value that you had and move it over to the next one. I want to ballpark it at 25 grand or something. Everything seems to be 25 grand.
But this would eliminate that cap. So if your taxes were going to go up by a factor of $50,000, $60,000, you're not screwed. I kind of like that being a transaction broker because that would spur market movement because a lot of people just don't want to move. Even people who want to downsize, right? If you bought a house, single family home, you're an empty nester now, and your house has 10x in value over 40 years, 50 years, you're probably paying what? $6,000, $7,000 a year in taxes for that. But if you go to the smaller condo, half the size of your house, you can afford to buy the $3 million condo, but do you want to spend 60 grand a year on taxes?
Exactly. And that's the rub. That's the rub. That's why you need to eliminate homestead exemption. And nobody likes it. And I'm a renter, for disclosure. You eliminate homestead exemption, now you're no longer locked in. People are being forced artificially to stay in their homes because they can't afford to move because the deal they've cut is so good.
Let me read you the last one that's listed here. This one limits how much the assessed non-school property tax can grow for a home from 3% every 3 years instead of the 3% annually, and then 15% over 3 years for non-homestead instead of 10% a year. Remember, homestead as it stands is that they reassess your property every year and they can raise the assessed value by 3%. This proposal says that they won't do that every year. They'll do it every 3 years and it stays at 3%. So you'll just get reassessed every 3 years. And this is the only one I'd like to point out that mentions non-homesteaded properties. The only one. So right now, if you don't have a homestead on a property, if it's an investment property, they can raise, that cap is actually 10% instead of 3%. And they would raise that to 15% over 3 years. So for everybody, your property taxes will get reassessed every 3 years. So every 3 years, there would be a total windfall. But that 3-year lockup period, imagine if that was the case, Peter, from 2021 to 2024.
And you just hit on the key point. These are typically late. These assessments are looking back 2 to 3 years. For the most part, they're not real time. So if you do get reassessed and they're going off of what you just said, what the pricing was in 2022, 2023, I don't know, I could almost see it go up.
Right.
There's a lag time in the valuation.